develop electromagnetic systems where they can put someone into a state and they can go into, and this gets into a cosmological complex discussion now, a lower astral, or denser astral field, and some would call this demonic. And they can actually see beings and creatures there and bring them in three-dimensional and materialize in flesh and blood through these electronics. So a lot of these things that people are seeing have nothing to do with interstellar and extraterrestrial. So when I talk about the interstellar civilizations,
because many of the experiences that shamans report in altered states of consciousness with spirits are really quite eerily identical to the experiences that are reported by people who believe they've been abducted by UFOs in the modern world. I had one alien-type experience under ayahuasca. As you can see, I am not an artist. But I did my best. And again, it was one of those occasions when I opened my eyes and said no, and I stopped the vision, stopped it in its tracks, because I was afraid, because I was convinced there was these ships in the sky and a funnel of light, and I was convinced that I was going to be drawn up, and I didn't want to go. And my cowardice got the better of my courage, and I said no, and afterwards regretted it. We know a lot about UFO abduction experiences from the work of a number of researchers, David Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, and the late Dr. John Mack, who was professor of psychiatry at Harvard University, who recorded... people started coming to him in his practice, very troubled people, they'd had very disturbing experiences, and they believed that they'd been abducted by aliens. Unlike most psychiatrists who just dismiss this as madness, John Mack took it seriously and didn't judge. He wanted to document their experiences, and so from his work we have a vast documentation, of a very thorough scientific documentation of the experiences of UFO abductees. Crystal that are found in the middle of this environment. What's depicted here is one of the things that happens. Sometimes you get a sense of being taken up into the heavens. You may be on a vehicle of some kind, or in this case on a bird, and carried off into this enchanted other world. Or you may be taken underground, sense of passing deep into the earth. Or you may be taken underwater by therianthropes, by human fish mermaids.
Voice from over his left shoulder. For 1 hour, at precisely the same time over the next 3 days, Crowley said that the voice dictated to him the book of the law, the work that would become the Bible of his new religion.
And the content of this revelation? I am the snake that giveth knowledge, the Spirit said. To worship me, take wine and strange drugs, whereof I will tell my prophet.
The book of the law, it just really is ripping up everything. It's ripping up the Bible, it's ripping up the Quran, you know, it's ripping up all the holy books and saying, we're starting fresh now. This is the word of the new eon. We're going to peck out the eyes of Christ on the cross. It's very, very blasphemous. It's all about liberation. It's all about having no restrictions at all. You follow your path, you follow your goal in life, and you do that above all else.
This was Crowley's primary goal, attainable in his beliefs to the ancient systems of the Hebrew and Greek Kabbalah and other forms of metaphysical, quote, science. All practitioners of magic, philosophically based occultists such as the Theosophists or Freemasons, have been consumed with interest of finding the origins of the human race. You just have to read what they write. It is claimed by the founders of many of these secret orders that they have received guidance from direct contact with those who call themselves the secret chiefs of the great white brotherhood. These masters, we are told, have literally dictated the laws and agendas of these mystery schools of ancient thought and wisdom. Now, Crowley, in the latter part of the last century and the beginning of this, the 20th, claimed to have had many such indescribable contacts, but two were of the greatest importance in apparently redirecting his entire life and thus changing the face of modern magic for all who followed. And as astonishing as it may seem, it may be that almost a century ago, Crowley was given a revelation about things that are coming to pass, even as we speak here tonight. The first contact that Crowley relates was in April of 1904 in Cairo. Cairo, by the way, is Arabic for Mars. Crowley tells us that he encountered an entity who he considered to be his, quote, holy guardian angel. This entity identified himself as Aiwass and proceeded to dictate to Crowley the so-called Book of the Law, or what would eventually become, to some, the canon of 20th century magical practice. In this book, Aiwass decrees that, quote, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And then he goes on to
I am the founder and the leader of the Radiant movement, which say there is no God, there is no soul, and of course there is no Holy Spirit. So it's a pleasure to support your website and your action to promote atheism worldwide, because we, the Radiant movement, use the same technique as the religious group who try to proselytize worldwide to have as many followers as possible. And I think it's good also that atheists use the same technique to proselytize also and to counterbalance the bad influence of God believers. So it's very important for me to push people to read the message I wrote, which is a completely atheist and rationalist message, which explains that we have been created by an advanced civilization coming from another planet. In a way, this is the third way. Before there was believing in God who created everything on earth in 7 days. Then there was the theory of evolution, and here comes a third way, we being the fruit of a scientific creation from scientists of a very advanced civilization.
The king of the money, the dollar, is in a free fall, and I think it will not stop. And the only solution, the Elohim explained to us, is the creation of a world government and a world currency, which is a first step toward the disappearance of money at large. But in first step, for a few years, we need a world currency to save the world. Really to save the world, because if it continues like that now, with the free fall of the dollar, then the destruction of all the financial organizations and banks and money system.
His deep involvement in personal use of drugs on himself and others, black magic.
When you say black magic, what are you talking about? I mean, some of the things that I read in the stack of material, it sounds just absolutely unbelievable. What are you talking about when you say this?
Well, the funny thing is that the actual truth is about as far out as Scientology itself. Really, the basis of Scientology, which is rather hidden and covered over, is the occult, the deep involvement with satanic powers. We felt that he was deeply involved with a British black magician called Aleister Crowley. And through putting himself in deep hypnotic trances and the use of drugs on himself, he wanted to become the most powerful being in the world.
It all began 75 million years ago. Back then, there was a galactic federation of planets, which was ruled over by the evil Lord Xenu.
And they had elected a fellow by the name of Xenu, could be spelled Xenu, to the supreme ruler.
Xenu thought his galaxy was overpopulated.
These planets averaged 178 billion human beings per planet. 178 billion. There were 250 billion on this planet. The name of this planet was Tigiak, and this is known as the bomb place, and this is the evil place. This is the place where they all got smashed.
And so he rounded up countless aliens from all different planets, and then had those aliens frozen.
The trick was to shoot somebody, disable somebody, very often a needle into a lung, and at the same time to hit him with frozen alcohol and glycol, which preparation is guaranteed to pick up a Satan. All he had to do was pick him up and put him in a refrigerator, and they had him, boy. As he tried to exteriorize from the body, there he was, frozen.
The frozen alien bodies were loaded onto Xenu's galactic cruiser, which looked like DC-8, except with rocket engines.
And they threw them into collection points, boxed them up in boxes, threw them into space planes, which are the exact DC-8. The DC-8 airplane is the exact copy of the space plane of that day.
Cruisers then took the frozen alien bodies to our planet, Earth, and dumped them into the volcanoes of Hawaii.
And they took these people in boxes and so forth, and they dumped them, and then they set off hydrogen bombs on the top of each primary volcano there is on this particular planet.
The aliens were no longer frozen. They were dead. The souls of those aliens, however, lived on, and all floated up towards the sky. But the evil Lord Xenu had prepared for this. Xenu didn't want their souls to return, and so he built giant soul catchers in the sky.
And when they blew up, it blew the Satans into the air, and after the bomb, an electronic ribbon, which also was a type of standing wave, was erected over the area. The tremendous winds of the planet blew every Satan there was straight into those particular vacuum zones which had been created.
Souls were taken to a huge soul brainwashing facility, which Xenu had also built on Earth. There the souls were forced to watch days of brainwashing material, which tricked them into believing a false reality.
These were brought down, packed up, and put in front of projection machines, which with sound and color pictures first gave them the implant which you know as clearing course, and then a whole track implanted which you know as OT2. After this, however, about the remainder of the 36 days, which is the bulk of them, is taken up with a 3D super colossal motion picture, which has to do with God, the devil, space opera, etc. They go 5 pictures to 5 words.
Xenu